Hola! Good evening. Hope you're all well. Welcome to episode 26 of Soul Centered Millionaire TV. I can't believe that this is the 26th episode. This idea for this kind of live series came to me on the Christmas break last year, and we started it in January. And let me know when you're getting logged in, guys. And it was off the back of me having this big realisation that, do you know what, my journey in business hasn't been all about no bullshit strategy. Hi Rochelle, hi Rachel, how you doing? Hey Leah, or is it, I don't know if it's Lee or Leah, please correct me. I'm going to say Leah, but it could be Lee. Hey Kerry, how you doing? Yeah, I suddenly realised that, do you know what? Yes, no bullshit business strategy is what I'm really known for. People say to me all the time, I love like how straight shooting you are, and what you see is what you get, and developed a bit of a reputation, hey Anita, for covering controversial subjects and speaking my truth and telling it like it is. But it's not all that's true, I suppose, for how I've built my business and the philosophies that I've built them with, because actually a lot of it has been a real spiritual journey, which is where Soul Centered Millionaire TV came from. You know, some of it has been really woo-woo and not, you know, it's that balance, isn't it, masculine, feminine. And I believe that real outrageous success in meeting is in the middle. It's having that kind of masculine process, number-driven, strategic thinking. Oh, okay, great. I'm going to go with Lee then, Leanne. And then you've got this kind of intuition and gut feeling, and call it universe, call it God, call it soul, call it whatever, the sprinkle of magic, which is why Soul Centered Millionaire TV was born in January, because I thought, you know, I've been sharing a lot more of the masculine stuff, and the feminine really needs to come in, or else I'm not telling the full story. Tonight I'm more in my masculine, so I'm going to be busting some myths around the word business blueprint or blueprint for success tonight, and talking about why I think that's complete and utter bullshit. Who else have we got tonight? Let me know that you're logged in by giving me a live, hashtag live if you're live, or even hashtag replay if you're watching on replay, because it's really interesting for me to understand who is catching up on replay. So every morning I start my day with some non-negotiables, some disciplines, because I personally believe that success is born from habitual practices that become so routine and way of life for you and for the team that you have around you, that they just happen, you know, like breathing, like brushing our teeth. Anything that's not habitual and built in as a discipline that happens daily, weekly, monthly, or how often it needs to have the desired effect isn't really worth doing at all, because it will never build into a consistent routine that provides consistent results. And that's my thought process. So one of my habitual routines is the way I start my day is really, really important. Hey Jennifer, how you doing? So I would just say, yes, I totally need to hear this. Cool. Like, I'm going to stop reading the comments now, because I'm obviously getting awfully distracted. So one of the things that's built into my routine in the morning is, whilst partaking in some form of exercise, be under no illusion, this is not like the gym or running or anything extremely strenuous. It's normally a nice stroll with a dog or something like that. But or maybe even a swim, sometimes it'll be a swim. Whilst doing that, I'm listening to something not just inspirational but educational. I'm listening to somebody that's achieved something extraordinary that I can learn something from. And that doesn't mean they have to be extraordinary in business, because that's not the only thing that's relevant. I've learned from so many people, you know, whether they be extraordinary athletes, or that has no direct relevance to what I'm trying to achieve necessarily, but it's the study of human potential. It's the study of the psychology. Hey Joanne, again, just got off a great call with Joanne. The study of human psychology and what it takes to be a successful person. This is a question that I've asked myself since I was a small child, and I can remember asking myself this question. And the reason I think I was fascinated by this from such a young age, and why I chose to really study psychology and social psychology, because I'm also fascinated by what impact the relationships we have, the groups we're part of, have on our ability to achieve success. It's why I've created a group mentorship program, and it's built with, you know, this psychology behind it. The reason I was so fascinated is because as a child there was two real influences, two sides of my family, like there is for everybody, my mum's side, my dad's side. Dad's side was built, you know, made up of hugely successful people, a long line of entrepreneurial thinking millionaires and business owners, and not many people had jobs on my dad's side of the family. Some did, but most of the wealth had been created by business owners, self-made. And then my mum's side was the opposite. They were in jobs, and wealth wasn't really something that was important. It just didn't rank high on the list of priorities. They worked really hard for everything they had, and not very little really. They had very little in terms of materialistic and financial abundance, but had so much abundance in other areas, love and family. And so I can remember from a young age looking at those two contrasts and thinking, what makes the difference? And then that same question being asked over and over, which has meant that I've turned into a real geek that is constantly expanding my knowledge in that area of why do some people win at life and finances are never an issue, and they achieve in business and really excel, and why do some people not? And that's why when I'm listening to people that in the morning that I can learn from, it's with that fascination in mind, and how can I apply what they're saying and make it relevant to my next level of success, and also the people around me that I support in success, my clients, future clients. What can I take from this person that can help me and those people? And one of these people that I was listening to recently, I definitely recommend checking her out, she's amazing, is Dr. Condoleezza Rice. And she was the first female black head of national security for the United States of America. And she had some pretty important decisions to make, right? Like I think I have some important decisions to make some days. I think I have some tough struggles to get through. She will be deciding whether to drop a missile on a group of terrorists that maybe has 300 civilians and children and living around it, knowing that she might kill 300 people to save the lives of 3,000. Like, this woman has to make some big decisions. And in listening to her story and the insights in how she became that woman in that sort of, she's one of the most powerful women that the world's ever seen, and some of the decisions she had to make when she had to make them, historians will be talking about for centuries. She was head of national security in the US when 9/11 happened. You know, this woman had some serious responsibility. And there's three key things that I took from her that I believe we can all learn. And it's not like, I'm not saying, you know, when she said it was the first time I'd heard it or realised it, but like all things, you know, as we expand our knowledge and we're constantly broadening our horizons and listening to new things, we learn things at a deeper level. It validates things that we already know. And there's three key things that I want to share with you about that. The first thing is that there is no typical person when it comes to success. When it comes to business success, I know this to be true, but when it comes to success in general, if I'd have, you know, when I read the synopsis of what I was about to listen to that morning that I listened to Dr. Rice share her story, and it said like national security, head of national security, first black female to have a job like that, a lot of it didn't resonate, and it would have been really easy for me to flip past it, because honestly, I expected her to be nothing like me and me to be nothing like her. I expected there to be no relevance and really to not have much in common. I expected her to be really in her masculine, you know, someone that's head of national security. I expected them to be like cutthroat, and actually this woman was perfect balance of masculine and feminine, very soul-centered, very a few things that she said that hinted at the fact that there was this deep spiritual force that drove all of her decisions and ambitions, and a real big mission that she felt she'd got that underpinned her work ethic. And I thought, wow, I've got way more in common with this woman than I originally thought. And that just backs up my belief that there is no type. There is no type for a certain role, position in society, level of success in entrepreneurship. There is no type. I have seen people from all backgrounds with all sorts of cultural differences, different levels of academic success, some with none at all, some with doctor level academics. I've seen all different types of people achieve. There is no typical person when it comes to building a business that stands the test of time and becoming a successful CEO. Entrepreneurs aren't born into the world, they're made. They're self-made. They may have a lot of helpers on the way, mentors, coaches, books, all of the things that make them who they are ultimately, but they are made, they're created. Becoming a successful person is a process of becoming. You know, it's not somebody that just happens to be born into the right conditions and what ties into that is this blueprint for success. And I hear this phrase so much thrown around, and I may even have been guilty of using the words blueprint myself. You know, that's more than possible. When I really thought about it, I thought blueprint for success, and it was this particular woman that prompted me to really delve into that phrase. And I thought, it's a load of fucking bullshit, isn't it? It's a load of bullshit. And I'll tell you what she said that made me reassess it. She said, so many students that are studying international politics have said to her, how do you get to where you are? How do you get, and what they mean by that is, how do you become a head of national security? How do you work in the White House reporting to the president and live a cool life where you end up on private jets with some of the most powerful people in the world? How do you become that? How does that happen? And she laughed and she said, well, I started out as a musician. When I went to uni, I majored in piano. So if you're asking me like what steps I took to get to that place, I can tell you, but I guarantee they'll be very different to the steps that you take in the pursuit of that. She started out probably with all odds against her as a black woman in the United States in a time where it was only a few generations before that slavery was a thing. Nobody in her family had achieved anything of the significance that she went on to achieve. She wasn't just born that way, she didn't come that way, she didn't have any advantages. In fact, you would say there was a lot of things that would suggest that she would not go on to do the things that she did. But she did anyway. So does that mean that everybody that's going to achieve what she did needs to have had the same start, the same fire in their belly because they were told that they'd need to be twice as good? That's what she was told. You're going to need to be twice as good as every white person to stand a chance at achieving anything significant. So strive to be twice as good as everybody. Does that mean that the blueprint for success for head of national security in the United States is to be told that from a young age, born into a place where you're probably not very privileged, go and major as a pianist? No, of course not. The point is, there is no blueprint for success that tells you if you take this step, this step, this step, this step, do this, and this, then it's going to equal this. It doesn't exist. And it's not realistic to expect to be handed that. The one thing I know for certain is that there are challenges on the route to doing anything extraordinary that sometimes are so gut-wrenchingly hard that we want to quit. But successful people don't. They find a way through them. And what I know for certain is that all challenges are different. in the pursuit of success as a successful entrepreneur. I have never worked with an entrepreneur. I've never worked with two entrepreneurs the same and that have had the same journey. The way I started out, being fascinated by human potential and what makes the difference between successful people and non-successful people. I then went into work for corporations and climbed the corporate ladder for a while. My first business, I was telling someone just earlier on, was a burger van. Flip burgers, because I actually bought some makeup from China and I was going to sell it for a profit, and I didn't know how to even start, and I had no knowledge of how to sell things online back then. It wasn't really as big as it is now. It was a lot more difficult to do, so I went out selling them at markets and car boot sales, and they didn't sell. They were absolute shit. I remember looking around at this car boot sale and nobody was really buying. Everyone was just walking around. It's like they'd just come out for a day out. But the one person that had a queue and that was selling was the catering van, the burger van, because everyone wanted to eat on their day out and everyone wanted a drink. And they were spending money on that. So I came home that day and I said to my husband, I need to buy a burger van. Bless him, like he was like, what the fuck? But I saw that that's where people are spending money, therefore that's where I need to invest, and I managed to scrimp and scrave and get the money together to do that, and I was flipping burgers for a living. And it was the first time really that I was like exchanging something for money that was my product and my money at the end. It was that first shift for me. And I was telling someone earlier on, it was the first time I experienced that imposter syndrome and that fear around money. I was charging £3 for a burger, but I knew that they'd only cost me about 30 pence to make, something like that. It was pennies. And I remember someone saying, like, how much for the burger? And me going, £3 please. I'm thinking, oh, fucking hell. I felt like I was doing something wrong because it had cost me so little to make and I was charging. It's basic business 101, right? Buy cheap, sell higher. That's how we make money as a business. But it was my first rodeo and I had all these fears, and that's where I started, and I made money and, you know, decided that I didn't want to flip burgers anymore, and evolved from there. And there's been many businesses, some success, some not so much. And does that mean that the blueprint for success is for you to start in a burger van? No, absolutely not. Some of you will have watched my recent 4-part series, how 4 years ago I was living in a caravan and today I'm a millionaire. Does that mean that you've got to go live in a caravan? No, of course it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. Journeys will be different for every person, and no one can say to you, this is what's going to happen to you, and predict that. No one can do that. Business and success isn't predictable. The most successful people are the most flexible people that understand that it won't be predictable, and we will experience bumps in the road, and there will be points where I've got to change my approach, my methods and ways of working in order to get through a problem. Obviously there are some things, having been through a lot of bumps, a lot of trial and error, hours and hours and hours of studying and grafting and executing, and that's led me to the point where I'm at. There are some things that I know for sure, and that's what I include in my mentorship, the Women's Wealth Accelerator. It's, you know, the step-by-step kind of strategy stuff that I know for certain people need to know and execute and master in order to have success on building an online business. There is also in there, you know, the stuff that I know needs to go on up here in terms of attitudes, disciplines, behaviours, habitual practices that need to be embedded for someone to be successful. But does that mean that it's a blueprint for success? Hell no. Because there will be things that come up for the individuals that go through that are different every time. Every time, because we're all built differently. You all come in, you all start your business. Every single person listening to this starts their business as a different individual with a different set of skills, experiences, knowledge. So no one can say to you, from where you are now, it's going to take you X amount of time to get here. And if someone ever tries, like, so one of the questions I get asked all the time is, how many hours a week will I need to put in to earn 10 grand a month in 3 months? I don't fucking know. Nobody knows. If you're ever in a situation where you're in a sales environment where someone's selling you something and promising you a result in business in a certain time frame that sounds really predictable, my advice would be turn around and run the other way. Because unless they are seriously have mastered the art of predicting the future, they're not going to know the answer to that question. Because success is built based on you becoming the person you need to be to have the success. Absolutely fast tracking your results is a good idea, of course it is, by getting help and being in an environment where that gives you the ability to do that, because you don't know what you don't know, of course. But the challenges that are going to come up for you and how you get around them and your ability to bounce back through them and go round challenges and under challenges and over and through them at points, like everybody's ability to do that is different. New levels that you go to bring new devils, and they're different devils for different people. We all have different fears. So this success blueprint is a pile of bullshit, in my opinion, because there just can't be this exact blueprint for success that's predictable. The best way to predict your future success is to work on some basic principles that never change. One of those principles has to be that you never, ever, ever give up. And that even when it gets really tough, you find the fucking strength and resolve to work through your challenges. I love this as a 24-year-old that feels late to the party. Natasha, wow. Do not feel late to the party. At 24, what was I doing at 24? Some things you don't want to know about. What was I doing at 24? Don't think I'd even started my first business at 24. I definitely wasn't logging in to training like this and fully immersed, I don't think, in self-development. You are not late to the party. Even if you spent the next 6 years just absolutely mastering entrepreneurship, by the age of 30 you can be equipped with the knowledge and the experience and skill set to never have to worry about making money. And that's where you're at when you're at a place where you know you're always going to be all right. For me, that's success. Yes, we can measure success. We can measure success in amount of money's in the bank, zeros in our bank balance, and that goes a long way, of course. We can measure it in monthly residual income, that goes a long way. We can measure it in lives that we've impacted, people's lives that we've touched, and the way the world's been impacted because we have the courage to step up. We can also measure it in our ability, and I think there's something in doing that, because money can disappear, can't it? We can invest bad and lose it. Lots of things can happen, but as long as you always know that you can make it again, you never lie awake at night worrying about it. Like, I can honestly say I can put my head on the pillow every night and money is not something I ever worry about. Not just because I have it, but because I know that I can make it. And that's, I think, where real peace of mind comes from. Getting to that point is success. There is no blueprint for that. There is no blueprint for that, because it's a series of skills, isn't it? It's a series of experience and strategy and knowing how to do something physically, but also knowing that you're the person up here that has the ability to keep bouncing back, keep going. You get to a point, I believe, where you know for certain that you could, and I know this for certain, I could lose everything tomorrow, touch wood I don't, I'd like to not, but I could lose everything tomorrow, and within 12 months it'd be back, all of it. It could be stolen from me, taken from me unfairly, invested badly, and it wouldn't matter too much. And they say, interesting fact for you, that 98% of the world's wealth exists in 2% of the bank accounts. So 2% of the people have 98% of the world's wealth. And if you were to take it away from the 2% and evenly distribute it between everybody, it would be back with the 2% within 5 years. Because what they have is the ability to create it Giving people money doesn't solve that. So the blueprint for success, quite simply, is working on becoming the person you need to become so that you can get to a place where you can put your head on the pillow every night, knowing that you'll never have to worry about money again because of who you are, not because of what you have. And the time scale on that, I mean, I can tell you that I have studied probably my entire life the difference between successful people and not so successful people, and tried to model myself on successful people. And sometimes that's been really hard and I've made mistakes. So countless mistakes and getting back up, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of studying, and then even more time executing and taking action has created the results that I have today. My best life, that might not be your best life, but my ultimate life I've created through all of that time. Now, when I work with clients and they come into my mentorship program, they get to experience all of those hours, all of that time, all of that studying in a short amount of time so that they can fast track their results. But still challenges come up. It's not a blueprint for success because it doesn't say if you do X, Y, Z, it's going to equal this. What it helps you do is get through the challenges that are inevitable, easier, faster, and therefore achieve success easier and faster. The last thing that really stood out to me listening to Dr. Condoleezza Rice was her strength and ability to make really tough decisions and take action. And it just reinforced that really that's the big thing. I've talked last week about the fact that I honestly feel like the entrepreneurial world, the business world, online business world has gone crazy with procrastination and hesitation and calling it something else. You know, I'm going to have to go and meditate on that. Let me sit with that for a while. It's not the right time. I'm quite busy right now. I'm going to do it in 6 months. It's fucking stupid, and it doesn't make any sense when you measure it against logical thinking in terms of what it takes to be really successful at anything. Take Condoleezza Rice. Do you think when that first plane hit the tower on September the 11th, she had time to fucking meditate on what she was going to do next? Do you think she could turn around to the president and say, let me just sit with that for a while and I'll let you know what I think we should do as head of national security? No. She had to take action, and she had to make some really tough decisions in that moment. Decisions that ultimately will be looked back on for generations and questioned and criticised and all of those things, but she had to make those decisions. And it's strength, making decisions and taking action, that really changes the world. It changes your results in business. It changes the people you help. It changes the world a little bit because you've helped them. Without it, we don't have anything. We don't have the ability to create. So sometimes you've got to say yes when it feels uncomfortable. Take action when you don't feel ready. Strive for progress over perfection. She couldn't wait to feel ready to make those decisions. Do you ever feel ready? I'm sure there was moments where she felt like the biggest imposter, the biggest fraud. Like, who am I to make this big decision that affects the globe? Who am I to be trusted? I'm sure she had all of those feelings. Every successful person does. But she had to take action and push through them regardless. And let's face it, the decisions we have to make as entrepreneurs on a daily basis probably don't equal death and destruction. They probably aren't decisions like, do I have to drop a missile over there and kill 300 people for the sake of saving 3,000? They're not life or death situations. They can feel scary sometimes, but when we measure them against someone like her, it was a big reality check for me, and I hope it is for you too, that really on the grand scale of things, the decisions we have to make aren't that big and scary when you put them into context. And they're the 3 big things that I wanted to share with you today. So just to recap, there's no typical type of person. Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're created. It's a process of becoming. Point 2, There is no blueprint for success. No one can say to you XYZ equals predictable results, predictable routine equals predictable. The most successful people are the most flexible, and what counts the most is strength when it comes to making difficult decisions, choices that feel hard, and even when we don't feel quite ready to make them, and taking action regardless of our fears. And thank you for listening, guys. Lots of love. Speak to you soon.